Hello and welcome to all you March people for another colour reading from Karen's Colours. This time it's for July 2026. Now, if you've been here before, then you know what to expect. I'm Dr. Karen and I give general colour readings for each of you to see how your next month will develop. If you haven't been here before, well, then you probably find this a little unusual, but find yourself extremely welcome all the same. June was a bit of a mixed bag for most of us, and if you had a little bit of a problem, then I hope that by the end of the month it has sorted itself out. Certainly, July offers us another start to a different month, and as a general reading, take what resonates and please leave aside what doesn't. You might even like to come back towards the end of the month to see just how it fared for you. So let's begin then, shall we? Now, before I begin, this month we're going to be taking one of the oracles from the Treasures of Takashi. Clarity. Be clear in your intentions. Know what you are aiming for. Allow clarity of thought. You need not sort everything out at once. Take one step at a time, then stop and look up, relax, and look into the distance. It gives you a much clearer picture than looking down in one spot. Many pieces of your puzzle may fall into place soon. Trying only clutters. Allowing creates flow. So let's now look at some colours for people born in March. And what we have here is your strength is pink on black. The obstacle that you'll face in July is red on yellow. And the underlying energy is purple on brown. Your strength, it's pink on black. The pink represents what you're actually doing in the real world as a result of the need or drive or motivation that comes from the internal world. And in this case, because it is black, what it is saying is that one of your greatest strengths is that you are able to, when necessary, to withdraw. And when you withdraw, you're able to draw within yourself. And inside yourself, you then are able to meditate, to think, to re-evaluate and to reorganize yourself. Black has no colors as such, but it contains everything. And so therefore it has the opportunity to create anything that you might want to create. So what does it in fact create? In the real world, it creates for you a situation in which you become highly attractive to others, in which love and caring and compassion become the ruling elements of your day. But it also is the ability to deal with illness. Black internally is often associated with depression, and pink in the real world associated with depression as a result of illness that has occurred. But this is your strength. So how does that make sense? Well, basically, it asks you to withdraw and to allow others to come to assist. That is your strength. And perhaps that's one of the things that you do. Perhaps when you're not feeling as though everything is going your way, you do find yourself heading down the path of withdrawal. Other people see that as illness, and so therefore they come to your assistance and help you out with whatever issues that are facing you at that time. The obstacle that you're dealing with, I'll turn it the right way around, is red over yellow. Now, yellow in the internal world as an obstacle is always about fear. It's about the sudden awareness that things are there in the real world that are not very comforting. And so you find yourself in a constant state of alert anxiety. And that fear comes through in the real world as a fairly aggressive sort of response, which is really quite odd. Red and yellow together, when we combine those two colors, become orange. Now, orange is all about confidence and courage and standing up for yourself and being able to survive crisis and calamity. But if this is the obstacle, why are you drawing towards yourself exactly those conditions that enable you to be so fearful that in the real world you actually have to fight to survive? Now, there's an additional issue here in that red and pink are very closely associated with one another because they belong to the same spectrum. There is a little bit of red in the pink. Red and pink are energy and the lack of energy. Why is the lack of energy your strength, yet the actual use of that very energy your obstacle? Is it perhaps that you are likely to lose your temper fairly easily? And when you do so, you find yourself being smacked down, and that in turn causes you to withdraw, and that withdrawal in turn causes others to then regret what they have done, and so therefore you're given a second chance. Maybe that's what this is about. Certainly, though, the orange that's hidden here in the red and yellow tends to suggest that there is an ever-present crisis that tends to be existing within your life. And this is a constant obstacle. Now, what then are the underlying energies? Well, the underlying energies work both to enhance your skills, your positive aspects, the strengths that you have, but they also have an effect on the obstacle. So what is it? We have purple on brown. Brown is the drive towards creating the sorts of goals and ambitions that will enable you to achieve something that you want to. But it also requires you to become very practical about how you go about doing that. So there is a need here, a driver towards finding the sorts of skills that are necessary for you to achieve those ambitions. But how do you go about doing that? Well, in the real world, what you do is you develop purple energy. Purple energy is both destructive and creative. And so here we have you wanting to achieve something, but you do so by tearing down what was and then building something new. Now, that combination, this constant struggle towards a new direction or a particularly goal-oriented direction that requires this continual changing, the demolishing of what was and the creation of something different or new in its place, can be extremely wearing. Nevertheless, this is the underlying energy that helps you to deal with these, the strength and the obstacle throughout the month of July. So let's examine now how these interact. Well, we have firstly pink over black. Oops, get that right. And then we have purple over brown. And then we have red over yellow. Now, looking at these colors, you can see that in terms of the brightness, that the brightest colors are the ones of your obstacle. What is it about the engagement with life, which this red and yellow tend to suggest, that is so magnanimous in its normal representation is for you an obstacle, whereas here, colors that are muted represent your strength. Well, let's have a look at what happens when we add the underlying energy to the strength. Now, we already know that withdrawal and the development of some sort of ailment that requires assistance from others is the strength. But the underlying energy here is that there is a goal that is associated with this that comes through only when you are able to create some sort of major change. Now, we can deal with looking at this by swapping over the underlying drivers. And now we have a situation where instead of withdrawal creating this need for somebody to come and assist, we have a goal. Goals or ambitions that will create for you in the real world the need for assistance from others, and that assistance is very much forthcoming. So in this respect, the underlying energy is very helpful in maintaining that ability in the real world that you have of being loved and loving, of being cared for and caring, of being accepted, and at the same time being vulnerable. On the other hand, we also have purple over black. Now, this is less helpful, but nevertheless, because it combines your strength with your underlying energy, it also has a positive bent. When you withdraw from the world, when you pull yourself inward, you can also, instead of just becoming ill or requiring other people to intervene on your behalf, you can also travel the purple path. And when you travel the purple path, you find yourself making changes, disrupting the status quo, creating the sort of alternatives within your life and within the life of those around you that cause something entirely different to come through that is very spiritual. Black is the ultimate in spiritual energy. Purple is very closely aligned with that spiritual energy. Being very intuitive, being very psychic in the real world comes through as healer energy. And that in turn is also very attractive to others. They want to get involved with this. So you are like a fix-it person. If there is a problem for people that need resolving, that requires more than just everyday practical responses, then the imaginative psychic responses are the ones that you are able to supply. If we then take that underlying energy and attach it to your obstacle, then what we have here is this drive towards an ambition, a goal, through the breaking or damaging the old and replacing it with something different, associating now with this fearfulness about having to fight your way through life. If we swap these over, then we get a slightly different picture. Here we have purple on yellow. They're opposites on the color wheel. And interestingly enough, when they are mixed together in a single color, they become brown. So here, your underlying energy actually supports what potential fears and anxieties that your obstacle creates by stimulating the sorts of goals and aspirations that will enable you to achieve something that you have wanted to get for your own life. It creates those ambitions. On the other hand, we have red over brown. Brown is those very same goals and ambitions, but it's also the striving towards practical skills. But because this is an obstacle, one of the issues that you need to be very wary of is that when you are obtaining your goals, that you don't overstep the mark, that you don't do something so impulsive, so potentially dangerous that you will damage yourself. Red ultimately is a stop sign. It says don't go any further. Halt whatever it is you're doing. But as an obstacle, you seem to have difficulty in doing just that. So perhaps you might start to think in terms of, what do I really need out of life? I am afraid of the repercussions that come from when I make changes. But together, that fear and that imagination creates goals. And those goals can be created in the real world if I gather my energy to do so. But I need to be careful that I'm not impulsive and dangerous in what it is that I choose to do. Let's have a look at the missing colors to see what it is that we can use to overcome some of those issues. Well, to begin with, there's no white. There's no green. There's no blue. There's no orange. There's no grey. And there is no cyan. These 6 colours represent the skills that are currently not being used that are potentially available to you should you choose to take them on. White is becoming open, allowing curiosity to take you to places that you haven't been before, to allow things to happen, to just become enlightened. It's the opposite of this closing down black that you have as your strength. It's challenging you to do the opposite thing. Green is about new spaces. It's about letting go of the past. You don't need to be hanging on to everything that you brought with you. Green says, drop the regrets, drop the recriminations. You can't allow yourself to live a life of regret. Move forward. Blue is about doing your duty. It's about taking on responsibilities and carrying them out to the best of your ability. It's a very quiet color, and it has to do also with maintaining the status quo. Orange, while it's hidden here, does not exist as a color in its own right. We know it's about crisis. We know it's about confidence. We know it's about survival skills. Are you able to think before you act? This is acting before you think, which is not a good thing to do. Are you able to think before you act and therefore overcome whatever challenges erupt in front of you? Grey is about finding that middle road between the black and the white, between extremes. Are you able to travel through compromise? Can you decide which area you're going to tread your path and keep yourself away from extremes? Cyan is all about contentment. It's about being satisfied with your life. It's being able to find a sort of blissful existence that occurs as a result of you having everything in its place and everything exactly where you want it to be. Anyway, whichever of these colors is the most appealing, and then whichever is the least appealing, are the 2 colors you need to take on to incorporate into your repertoire here, so that when you are faced with this issue of, once again, acting before you think, that you in fact find yourself doing something different that enables you to overcome that dilemma. Well, if nothing else, July certainly seems to be becoming a very interesting month indeed. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed this reading and that you take away from it or from the treasure of Takashi something that will benefit you throughout the month of July. Until we meet again, may the colours of your life bring you all of the joy and happiness that you require for your own higher good. Catch you next time. Bye.